Greetings, it's Iain from RTO here. Welcome to another Marathon Wednesday, and this week it is part 4 of the Michael Schenker story. And we're going to concentrate today on the Michael Schenker Group, or often abbreviated to just MSG. Formed in 1979 after Michael had left UFO. Now, it was around till 86, then he sort of split it up and he went and formed a band with Robin McCauley. We'll talk about that next week. And then after that finished, he resumed with the Michael Schenker Group, plus doing solo stuff and other projects as well. So there's plenty to go through. He's had many members of the band over the year. It all depends on when he wants to record an MSG album and who he can get. So he's had all sorts of people come through this band, from Gary Barden to Billy Sheehan, Denny Kamasi, and some really some of the newer guys as well. So there's plenty of people that have been through this band. 13 studio albums to date. Some of them we went through a pretty lean period, but of course you've got the classics, which you'll find out during this little video. So let's get cracking. So coming in at number 13, we have an album from 2005, and it's called Heavy Hitters, and it's cover songs by Michael. And basically it was Michael and the all-star guests musicians. The album was marketed as MSG, with the result that Schenker only got a flat fee. So there's a little bit of controversy with this one. So the first track they do is Elvis Presley's All Shook Up, which features Joe Lynn Turner, we all know him, Michael Schenker, Bob Keelik, and Ainsley Dunbar and Jeff Pilson. I don't like this at all. This is one of those songs that doesn't need heavy metalized, and it just doesn't work. Up next is Blood of the Sun, which is of course a mountain song, and guess who's doing the vocals? The one and only Mr. Leslie West. So it's Michael as well. Bob Keelik's back on rhythm. We've got Rudy Sarzo now on the bass, and Simon Wright on the drums. I think the only thing that makes this not too bad is that you got Leslie singing it. That's all I'll say on it, but it is a great mountain song. Okay, then he goes and does a UFO song, Doctor Doctor. He's got Jeff Scott Soto doing the vocals, Bob Keelik's on here, Jeremy Rabime does the keyboards, Marco Mendoza's on the bass on this one, and Brett Chasson on drums. The only good thing about it is the guitar work, and that's it. There's only one person that can really sing that, and that of course is Mr. Mogg. Then we have War Pigs, a Black Sabbath number of course, and on here we got Tim Ripper Owens from Judas Priest and KK Downing's Priest, Michael Schenker, Bob Keelik, Mike Inez, and Ainsley Dunbar again. It's okay, but you just can't beat the original. Then we have I'm Not Talking, which is a Moose Allison song. On here we've got Mark Slaughter on vocals, Mr. Schenker, Mr. Keelik, Mr. Pilson, and Mr. Dunbar. Totally different to Moose Allison's version. It's alright, it's a bit more heavier this is, because the original is more of a jazzy version. Then they decide he does Pink Floyd, Money. He's got the wonderful Tommy Shaw from Styx, with Edgar Winter on sax, Tony Levin on bass, and Mike Bard. It's alright. Tommy does a great vocal on it, and that's about it. Then they do Out in the Fields, which of course is a Gary Moore song. It's got Gary Barden doing the vocals, Bob Keelik, Chuck Wright and on bass, and Brent Chasson. One of the better covers on here, but you didn't need to all add them twiddly Schenker bits on it because it just didn't work. Then they do Hair of a Dog, which is a classic from the one and only Nazareth. He's got Paul Di'Anno, ex-Iron Maiden, doing the vocals, Bob Keelick, again, Phil Susan on the bass, and Vinny Appice. Of all the covers on this album, this is the best. Paul Di'Anno does a great job. Then we have, from the Jimi Hendrix Experience, I Live Today, Sebastian Bach from whatever band he was in, I can't remember. It'll come to me. Michael Schenker, Bob Keelick, Tony Franklin on bass, the one and only Tony Franklin, and Eric Singer on drums. Skid Row, yeah, that's where Sebastian Bach's from. I knew it'd come to me. It's okay. Sebastian's vocals are not very good on it either. And then we have Politician, which is, of course, a great Cream cover. Jeff Pilson does the vocals and the bass, Michael Schenker lead guitar, and the drums, Brent Trasham. Probably my second favourite track on here. It's a bit more heavier than Cream's, but a very good version. Yeah, not a brilliant album. Some of the songs you just can't metal up. So I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 3 out of 10. Okay, then coming in at number 12, we have the 12th album. It was released in 2006 and it's called Tales of Rock and Roll. So on here we have got Tari Giruja on vocals, I think that's how you pronounce it, the name. Michael Schenker, of course, Wayne Finlay on keyboards and rhythm guitars, Mr. Pete Way, the legendary Pete Way on bass, Jeff Martin on drums, Gary Barden does some vocals as well, and Kelly Keeling. Graham Bonnet comes and sings on Rock and Roll, Robin McCauley sings Tell a Story, Kelly Keeling does the main vocals on one song, and Leif Sundin does vocals as well, so there's lots of vocalists. The first track on this one is called The Ride. It's alright, the drum sound is a little bit tinny, but it's got some great guitar licks from Mr. Schenker. Setting Sun isn't too bad, some nice riffs on there, it's a good vocal on that one, I do like that. Angel of Avalon, which is Leif Sundin singing, I quite like this, it's a good vocal from Leif. Dreaming Sign, Chris Logan does the vocals on this one, it's a good track, loves the riffs from Michael. Dust, solid track, there's just nothing wrong with it. Voice of My Heart, it's alright. Just going through the motions, I think there. Journeyman, same, it's just same old riffs, nothing really thing. Big Deal, False Alarms, Kelly Keeling, typical heavy metal track, it's okay. Sentan, it's it's one of these tracks, only 1.5 minutes, I think it just, oh, we've run out of ideas here, we'll just put it as it is. Shadow Lady, one of the better tracks on here. It's a great solo from Michael. Love Trade, it's a little bit repetitive, it's alright. Human Child, let's have one of the fairer tracks on here. Bittersweet, Sweet, the only thing good about it is the solo. Blind Alley, definitely a bit of filler track, like 3 or 4 of the tracks on this album. Freedom, again, it's okay. Life Vacation, it's okay, it's listenable. Rock and Roll, Graham Bonnet, my favourite track on here. I love Graham Bonnet's vocals, and that's why I like it. Tell a Story, Robin McCauley singing, his voice just hasn't weathered well. And then we have this little instrumental called Life Goes On. It's alright, it's got some keyboard. Although this is about 56 minutes long, there's 19 tracks on here, and there's some seem unfinished. It just seems like a bit of a mishmash album, so I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 5 out of 10. Okay, coming in at number 11, 1996 now, the 8th album, and it's the first album since the Michael Schenker Group broke up, and it's called Written in Stand. So on here we have got Michael Schenker, Leif Sundin doing the vocals, Barry Sparks on bass, Shane Gallas drums, additional musician on the keyboards, Claude Gourget, Gaudette, sorry. Brave New World opens up this one. I like the keyboards on this from Claude. Excellent entry. Really good song. Great vocal from Leaf. Cry No More. It's okay. It's got some great riffs in it. Nothing special. I believe bit of this leftovers from the Michael Schenker Group. It's not that good. Back to Life. This is more like it. This is the Michael Schenker MSG we like. Some great riffs on this. I like that one. Written in Sand. One of the worst tracks that this formation of Michael Schenker Group has done. It's too commercial. It's definitely throw it on MTV material. Then we have Essence, which is a instrumental, and it's a little bit too long. It's just the same riff over and over again. Love Never Dies. Just what I call user-friendly rock. I Will Be There. Not a fan of this song. It's a little bit weak. Take Me Through the Night. It's not too bad. And Down the Drain. Yep, this is where it should go. Although it has got a good solo. I'm not a great lover of this album. It's just too commercial for Michael. He was still living off the MTV sort of nonsense. I don't play it as much as I do some of the others. So I'm going to give this one an RTO ranking of 6 out of 10. Coming in at number 10 from 2003 we have Arachnophobiac. It's got various people on here as usual. We've got Chris Logan doing some vocals. We've got Michael doing the guitars, of course. Stuart Ham on bass. Jeremy Colson does drums. We've got Jeff Watson appearing on some lead guitar on some tracks, and Jeff Ogowitz on the bass on one of the tracks. First track on here is called Evermore. I quite like this track. I think the drums need a little bit more oomph, but on the whole it's pretty good. It's got some classic Michael Schenker riffs. Illusion. Great playing here for Michael. This is more like this. This is what we know Michael for. Shredding, licks, great solo. Title track, Arachnophobiac, is next. The best track on the track. I love the vocal in this. It's great. And it's got some great little riffs as well. Rock and Roll Believer comes next. Great guitar work here. It's just classic Michael Schenker to me. It's a really good track. Sands of Time comes next. Another of my favourites. It's got all them juicy riffs, great bass lines, some great drumming. Then we have Weather Vane, which is my second favourite track on here. It's gritty, melodic, damn good riff. Over Now. It's got some nice little guitar in it, but as a song I don't like it. One World, not a strong track. Pretty lame, to be quite honest. Break the Cycle. It's not a bad little track. Some great guitar work from Michael on that one. Alive. One of the weaker tracks on here. The drums a little bit insipid. It's a boring song, so it's definitely a filler track. And this Fatal Strike is the last one. It's just one of the tracks. It just does what it says on the tin. It's just a heavy rock metal track. Solid album. It's got two tracks on here that are a bit iffy, but on the whole it was a really good listen, and it always has been. So I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 7 out of 10. Time for a drink already. Okay, coming in at number 9, we've got the 13th album from 2008, and it's called In the Mist of Beauty. On here we have got, it's a great lineup. This is Gary Barden, Don Airey, Neil Murray and Simon Phillips. Don't have to go there's some great players on here. City Nights, great track. You got that classic Neil Murray bass line that drives us some really good drumming from Simon. Who lets it down a bit? Gary Barden. His vocals have changed, his voice has changed so much. Competition, another really good track. Even Gary's vocals sound good on this one. You've got some fantastic musicians, and it's a good track. I Want You, some classic Michael Schenker here. The riffs are good. Neil's bass line is just booming. A good track. End of the Line, my favourite track on here. It's got a rock and roll Phillips. Simon Phillips is great on here. Donny Airy's lovely little flashing keyboards, excellent. Summer Days, nice song, but Gary's vocals are a little bit on the struggling to hit them notes, some of them. Then A Night to Remember, just classic rock here, good old fashioned classic rock, great track. Michael's got some great little riffs on there. Neil Murray, just solid as ever. Wings of Emotion, another great track. This one is all about Don's great keyboards. You know, Don Airy is a magician. Great player. Come Closer, it's alright. Cross of the Crosses, Neil Murray just dominates this along with Don Airy. They keep the track going. It's got a great track, throwing in some great licks from Michael, and it's a terrific track. Na Na, again, it's just dominated by that distinctive Neil Murray bass line. It's a good track. I Am the One, it's got my favourite guitar solo from Michael on this, absolutely killer. Ride On My Way, you get sort of a thing that sounds a bit like the American National Anthem, but it's a great track, great riffs, and I love it. This album just features some legends in rock music, absolutely solid. But what lets it down is Gary Barden's vocals. He's trying to sing like he did in the 80s, and it's just not working. But on the whole, I just love listening to this just purely because of the musicians on it. So I'm going to give it an RTO ranking of 7.3. Okay then, coming in at number 8, we have the 10th album from 2001, and it's called Beware of Scorpions. Chris Logan, Michael Schenker, and the Reverend Rev Jones on bass, Jeff Martin on drums. No Turning Back opens this one up. Some nice little guitar bits from Michael on this. Some intricate stuff on this as well, and the bass line is great as well. Time's Up, my favourite track on here. It's like one of these plug in and go tracks. It's a great vocal from Chris Logan as well. Falling in Love, another solid track. Like Jeff Martin's drums on this, he really attacks the kit on that one. Next up is Because I Can. I think this is one of Chris Logan's best vocals that Chris did in MSG. It's a super song, and it's a fantastic vocal. How Will You Get Back, solid melodic tracks and great drumming and riffs, really solid. Blinded by Technology, the drums do sound a little bit tinny on this one. I don't know what they've done to them, but to compensate that, there is some great guitar work from Michael. Ice, Age of Ice, some nice little guitar at the beginning of that track. It's a good track. Standing in the Road, bit of a... takes a little while to get going, but once it does, it's pretty good. Sea of Memory comes next. Interesting track. Lots of atmosphere, some nice guitar work from Michael. On Your Way. The voice is a little bit stretched here. But it's got a good groove to it. Reflection of Your Heart. It's alright. It's just very ordinary. Roll It Over. Certainly a bit of a filler track on here. And the last track, Eyes of a Child, some lovely acoustic guitar from Michael. Of all this fanatic heavy stuff, you can get a great little bit of gentleness, and it's a great vocal from Chris. Not a bad album. It's got a couple that I'm a bit... and Chris's voice is a little strained, but on the whole, it's just a good listen. So I'm going to give this one an RTO ranking of 7.5. Moving on. Number 7. Ninth album from 1999, The Unforgiven. Singing on this one is Kelly Keeling, Michael Schenker, Seth Bernstein on keyboards, John Under on bass, and Shane Gallas on drums. First track on here is called Rude Awakening. Some great riffs on here. It's got a great guitar solo for Michael. I do like that. The Mess I've Made, a good track. Shane's drumming's great. Really holds it together. It's just one of them tracks. Good track. In and Out of Time, it's alright. It's not bad, it's not brilliant, it's just okay. Hello Angel, sort of a slowish track with some atmosphere. It's a great vocal from Kelly. Absolutely stunning vocal. Then we have Fat City NO, another solid track. Pretty good. Tower, I like a track that starts off with a dirty, gritty riff. This one does. And it's some great playing for Michael on that one. Pilot of Your Soul. This reminds me sort of going back to them UFO dives with that rolling riff that Michael come up with. It's a good track. Forever and More, another wonderful start on this. It's a proper power ballad. I do like it. Great track. Turning Off the Emotions next. Great bass line. Really driven song. Michael just whips them licks and riffs around that great bass line. Live for Today, some more great drumming. I love the hi-hats on this. Solid. It's got a good ploddy place with a great bass line. Then my favourite track on here is Illusion. It's just a killer track. The Storm, it's got some classic Michael work on here. And that's why I like Michael as a guitarist. It's just incredible. So that was the last track. I think this is one of them albums that gets forgotten about of Michael Schenker. It's a great album with some great tracks. Go and play this one. And I'll give this one an RTO ranking of 7.7. Okay, coming in at number 6 is his most current album. And it was released in 2022 and it's called Universal. So you've got Michael, you've got Robin McCauley on here doing lead vocals. Steve Mann on vocals, Bodo Shoptoff on drums, Bernard Kraboyas on bass, guest singings Ronnie Romero, who came to fame with the reversion of Rainbow, Michael Kiske from Halloween's on here, Ralph Sheepers from Primal Fear, Simon Phillips is on here, Brian Tichy, who's played with Right Sanctum Foreigner, and the wonderful Bobby Rindelli's on here as well as Bob Daisley and a guest appearance by Tom Carey. So, Emergency. Great song. Driving riffs. Heavy, hard. A great vocal from Ronnie Romero. Absolutely great singer. What a find he's been. Great track. Under the Track. Another Ronnie vocal. Brilliant. Now, what I like about Ronnie, he can sing any of the songs that Rainbow done. With Ronnie James Dio and Jolene Turner, and does a great track, and he's great on here. He's absolutely on fire. Colin Bowell comes next. It's got Tom Carey keyboards on here. Wonderful stuff. Great track. A King Has Gone, my favourite track on here. It's got Tony on here again. Michael Keith sings. Bob Daisley. Bobby Rindelli. What a fine bunch of musicians to put a track together. I love it. The Universe. Some great playing on here. Gary Barton's vocals. I don't know if what he's done, but he sounds a lot better than he did before. Great track. Classic MSG. Long Long Road comes next. Another great track. Ronnie Romero singing again. Some great hooks and licks on that one. Wrecking Ball. This is okay. I don't like Ralph Shears singing. It sounds a bit gravelly. Yesterday Is Dead. Again, Ronnie, great vocal. London Calling. Great. Again, great riffs on this. Again, Ronnie's doing a great job on the vocals. Sad is the song. Simon Phillips drumming's brilliant on this. He's a fine drummer. Drums with everybody. And then Au Revoir, which is my second favourite drumming from Simon on It's Absolute Killer. Now this is a great album, one of Michael's best of the later years. I don't know if this will be his last album, but if it is, what a way to go out. Just a fine rock album. I'm going to give this one an RTO ranking of 7.8. Okay, coming in at number 5, we have the 2021 album, Immortal. Joining Michael now is Ronnie Romero again, Steve Mann on keyboards and guitars, Barry Sparks on the bass, and Bodo Schkoff on drums. First track, Drill to Kill. Love Bodo's drumming on this. That bass line from Barry Sparks is just brilliant. Ronnie kicking out a great vocal. Michael's riffs, absolutely killer track. Don't Die on Me Now. Again, we've just got this wonderful sound of modern, Michael the legend, just playing like he did in his old days. Absolutely on top form. Night of the Dead, probably one of the best tracks of the later years of Michael Schenker. It's spellbinding solo. The bass just rolls around your body. It just really keeps. It's just one of those tracks that you keep wanting to listen to. After the Rain, power ballad. Fine vocal from Ronnie. Devil's Daughter, another fantastic track, full of energy and drive. Sail the Darkness. The riffs are just great. The keyboard complements Michael's riffs. The Queen of Thorns and Roses, driven by the Barry Sparks bass line. Very different style of vocal from Ronnie, but it works. Come On Over, another killer solo from Michael on this. Seems like he's having a really good time. It's a great rock song. Sangria Mort, Michael's on fire. This is Michael of old, really letting go. Super track. In the Search of the Peace of Mind, a little bit different moods and atmospheres. Great vocal from Ronnie. This is a great album. This is his best album for a long time. It's full of energy. It's just something about it. And I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 8 out of 10. Okay, we now come to what I consider the classic albums. This was so hard. So the top 4 are the creme de la creme of MSG. So coming in at number 4, we have the 4th album from 1983, and it's called Built to Destroy. It was Gary Barton's return to the group following Graham Bonnet's departure. And this was the last album of MSG before they disbanded, before we had Michael Schenker Group. So it's Michael Schenker on guitars, Gary Barton on vocals, brilliant Chris Glenn on bass, Ted McKenna, the fine Ted McKenna from Alex Harvey on drums, and Andy Nye, who seems to pop up everywhere on the keyboards. First track is the great Rock My Nights Away. I love this. I've got it on the live album. Brilliant track. Great vocal from Mr. Barton. I love this track. I'm Gonna Make You Mine. Ted McKenna's drumming's great. That great driving Chris Glenn bass line. Always a great track. The Dogs of War. Again, we got this lovely driving bass. Ted McKenna keeping that beat going. And some great guitar bits from Michael. Systems Failing comes next. I think this is this is the one that lets it down. The drumming, I don't know what Ted was thinking. It's not one of his best efforts. Then we have my favourite track on here, Captain Nemo. It's a short instrumental, but it's absolutely brilliant. It's the best instrumental that MSG have ever done. It's got some killer licks and riffs. It's even better live. I love that. Okay, still that little Still Love That Little Devil is next. Another great track. One of my favourite tracks on here again. With Michael's screaming riffs, Gary's great vocal. You can't go far wrong. Red Skies next. Killer guitar work. I love the eeriness of this one. Terrific song. Time Waits for Nobody. It's got some horrible keyboard on this, and that's the only thing I don't like about it. I do like the rest. It's just got that horrible cheesy 80s keyboard. Then we have the wonderful Rock Will Never Die, Walk the Stage. It's a classic. One of the great tracks, one of Gary's best vocals as well. This is a great album now, considering this is 1983. Everyone else is doing MTV nonsense. They didn't do much. There is a little bit more commercial feel to it, but they kept to the roots of rock. So I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 8.3. Before we go into the top 3, I need to whistle the flute. Okay then, coming in at number 3, it's the debut album from MSG, and it's just called the Michael Schenker Group, released in 1980. The first album since he'd left UFO. So the original lineup on here was Michael Schenker on guitars and Gary Barden on vocals. Then the session musicians, and not bad session musicians to have, Simon Phillips on drums, Mo Foster on the bass, Don Airey on keyboards, supergroup, produced by Mr. Roger Glover. So it opens up with the great Armed and Ready. One of my favourite tracks by MSG. It's just a killer. Great riffs from Michael. You can't go too wrong with that one. Cry for Nations. When you hear the start of this, you know, what the dickens is going on here? You don't expect this from Michael. And then all of a sudden, bang! The riffs come in, and a great vocal from Gary Barden. Then we have Victims of Illusion, which is my favourite track on this album. It sounds more like classic UFO. Some great drumming from Simon, and yeah, great track. Bijou Pleasurette. Love Michael's guitar playing on this. It just stands out on what a great guitar player it is. He's more than just the heavy riffs he comes up with. Feels Like a Good Thing, a solid track, a great vocal from Gary Barden. I do love that track. Into the Arena, another classic from MSG, the riffs. A great bass line from Mo Foster on this. Terrific. Looking Out From Nowhere. Again, it's just full of Michael Schenker little bits. Tales of Mystery, real gentle track. The guitar solo on here is just dynamite. Lost Horizons, another of my favourites on here. It's got some great riffs and licks and a fine vocal once again from Gary Barden. I love this album, and get these musicians to play it on his debut album was something really well produced by Roger Glover. It still remains one of my favourite rock albums, and I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 8.5. Okay, coming in at number 2 is the second album from 1981, and it's just called MSG. On here is Michael and Gary, Paul Raymond from UFO on keyboards and rhythm guitar, Cozy Powell, the one and only Cozy Powell on drums, Chris Glenn. What a lineup. Additional musicians, backing vocals by the one and only Mr. Stephen Stills and Billy Nichols. This opens up with another classic MSG track, Ready to Rock. You get the great boomy drum of Cozy that starts it off. Absolutely killer. Up next, another cat classic, one of my favourite tracks by MSG, Attack of the Mad Axeman. You've got some great keyboard bits from Paul. You've got Cozy's great drumming, brilliant track. Boomy bass from Chris Glenn. On and on. Now this has probably got, I love the track. It's got probably my favourite Michael Schenker guitar solo. Absolutely top draw stuff. Let the Sleeping Dogs Lie, dominated by Chris Glenn's bass line. Woof. What a track. But I Want More starts off gentle, and then it just builds and builds and builds until you've got this raunchy thing, and then you've got some great drumming from Cozy, which always helps. Never Trust a Stranger, great song, written by Paul Raymond. Lovely keyboard work from him, and a great vocal from Gary. This is when Gary's vocals were at their best. Looking for Love, another classic from this band. It's just dominated by great riffs and drumming. Another of my favourite MSG tracks. And Secondary Emotion, the solid track with some great licks. A killer album, top to bottom, not one bad track. They're all brilliant in my books, and I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 8.8. But my favourite album is the 1982 one, Assault Attacks, and it's probably because it's got Rainbow Graham Bonnet. It's the first album he done after he left Rainbow, and I love Down to Earth, and I love Graham's vocal. So you've got Graham Bonnet on vocals, Michael Schenker, Chris Glenn, Ted McKenna. An additional musician is Tommy Iyer on the keyboards. Assault Attack opens the album. This is my favourite song by MSG, without a doubt. It's just got a catchy riff. It just blows your head away. It's got a lovely drone to it. It's the best track on the album, and it's the best track that MSG ever did. Rock You to the Ground, probably one of the best bass lines Chris Glenn ever contributed to this band. Plus he got this, it's a bluesy sort of thing, some great drumming from Ted, and Graham Bonnet is just on fire on this track. Dancer, great vocal from Graham. It's just worth listening to this for his absolute screechy vocal. Samurai, Ted's drumming's great. What a great drummer Ted was. I love the riffs from Michael on this. It just blows you away. Desert Song, it's a slow song. It's got a great riff, isn't it? The keyboards here from Tommy Iyer are fantastic. Michael on fire. Broken Promises starts off with some great drumming from Ted McKenna. In comes the great Michael riff. You know it's Michael from the minute you hear it. Chris Glenn just adds that little bass. Great vocal from Graham Bonnet. Searching for a Reason, the most commercial sounding track on the album, but it's great. It's just got that sort of combination that it's still rock, but it's a bit more, it's radio friendly, but it's catchy. Great track. Then we have another of my favourite tracks, and that is Ulcer. Absolute belter of an instrumental. Michael, Ted and Glenn are just absolutely on fire. What a track to end the album. Brilliant. Brilliant album from top to bottom. Quality song sung by one of the great rock singers. Brilliant. You know, you've got Ted McKenna, Chris Glenn. What more can you have? Every track on this album is just a killer. Killer, killer, killer. So I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 9 out of 10. So there we go. MSG, great band, especially in the early days, and then they went through that lean period he did with this band, and then he come back with the last 3 albums that he's done as MSG have been absolutely brilliant as well. Okay, next week it's part 5, and it's the Michael Schenker Group, and I'll say now, it's not one of my favourite bands. We'll find out why next week. Okay, that's all for today. I'll be back tomorrow. We've got another Battle Royale, and this one is against Michael Ricefields Records Foxtrot, up against Mick with Who's Next. Battle of two Americans, one living in California and the other, of course, lives in Japan. And also tomorrow it is Pick a Mix. And we're going to have a wander down the sidewalk tomorrow and look at the top 10 singles in America on the 7th of March 1976. So have a great day, everyone. And if you see a flashing light coming, the bins are being emptied. They should have been done yesterday, but they're here now. So that's why you've got probably a yellow light in the background. Bye for now.